Hello, hello, welcome to today's live, and I am talking about talk therapy, and why doesn't talk therapy always work? Or have you tried talk therapy and found that you've kind of felt like it wasn't working for you? And I know that a lot of my clients do say that they've had some benefit, but that they stopped attending or broke up with a therapist because they stopped getting results. So I'm going to dig into a bit of that, why it is that talk therapy often doesn't work and how we can get the most out of our therapy, and what types of therapy are effective or most effective for different types of things. Now, myself, I think everybody at some point in their life has needed to talk to someone, and we start off by talking to friends. So talking to friends is a really important support network, and family, but sometimes it's not enough, or we don't have the right people around us to support us with the things that we need. And so we therefore might feel that we need to get some professional help. I myself have been to counsellors. I found that when I go to a counsellor, it's usually because I am full up to here with stuff I can't deal with, and I feel like everything's too much, and I need someone to help me to understand it, to break it down, to give me a sounding board or some direction. And counsellors can be great for putting things into perspective, helping us process, helping us understand and get be able to see things from an outside view, and maybe get some feedback on things that we might be thinking, saying, or doing which are not helpful to us, and areas that might need some more work, particularly around trauma or things we're experiencing, like anxiety or depression. Might be things that come from overwhelm, etc. So I think we've all at some point tried reaching out to a counsellor, or perhaps we've been to see a psychologist. Now, the difference between a psychologist and a counsellor: counsellors will do the talking and the record keeping, but psychologists are actually able to diagnose, do reports, run tests, write letters for different things, schools and things like that. If there's a need for further thing, they can make recommendations. And it's also covered by the mental health plan in Australia. So you get 12 sessions a year, I think it is, covered under Medicare, which back when that first started was absolutely fabulous, because it used to cost about $80 to go and see a psychologist. And then what happened is that they all got so booked out that they put their fees up. So I think now, even with a mental health plan, it probably costs $100 to $150 on top to see. So it actually hasn't really saved anyone any money. It's just probably still moved ahead with the normal inflation rate. So from that perspective, it can be quite expensive to seek professional help. So it's really, really important that when you're going to somebody, that you're actually getting a benefit out of it. And so the temptation might be there, if you're on watching your pennies and so forth, to go and seek something that's cheaper or free. If you've got access to something like, through work or so forth, but you don't always get the results or the benefit. So it's good to kind of really make sure that you're choosing the right person. So that's one of the points. One of the points of why therapy sometimes doesn't work is because it's not the right therapist for you. And why would somebody not be right for you? Somebody would not be right for you if there was no trust there, no connection. You didn't feel comfortable with them, all the obvious kinds of things. But another reason why someone might not be right for you is if they are also, so they're all human beings. People are all human beings, you and I and everybody. And so therefore, if you are going to a therapist and that therapist is actually in their own life, your weaknesses are similar to theirs. So say, for example, you've got somebody that's got a therapist, they might have like a history of, bad dating experiences and not be in a relationship. So if you're going to that therapist and you're talking about those kinds of things, the stuff that you might actually be triggering your therapist. And we do, when we study as therapists, we are actually taught that if somebody is triggering us or they're bringing up stuff for us, that we should refer them on. But that doesn't always necessarily happen, because it requires also a level of self-awareness, which we don't always have. We don't always realize that what we haven't unpacked ourselves, and that's coming up for us in clients. So I like to use the analogy about eyebrows. So if I'm going to get my eyebrows waxed, I look at the person who's waxing my eyebrows. I think, would I like my eyebrows to look like theirs? So if, one time I went to a lady, I was about 20. It was back in the 90s. She had these little pencil thin things this long, and I had very thick dark eyebrows, and she turned me into little thin pencil lines, and I wasn't happy. So it is important that if you're looking for a therapist, if you feel that this person is somebody that carries themselves, speaks, lives, talks, has a presence that you would enjoy to be more like, or a life that you would like to be more like, then that's possibly somebody that's going to be able to give you impart something on you that you might like as well. So that's one thing, the right person. The other really important thing is that talking is necessary. Talking connects us. Connection is a really big human need. We need to feel connected. We need to feel understood. We need to feel validated, all those kinds of things. However, when we discuss our past traumas, when we relive them, we're re-experiencing them, reconveying them, we're literally taking a bath in our own past. We're re-experiencing. And so you're not going to get anything. You're re-traumatizing, you're reliving and re-traumatizing. There's no change happening. So if I tell you the terrible story about my cancer, or the terrible story about my divorce, or some terrible story from my life, I'm actually, on a nervous system level, I'm re-experiencing that. And that can be a reason why talk therapy doesn't work, because for the therapist to be looking at your current experience and your current situation, your current life, and then wanting to dig and probe and find this cause, that's all conscious work. And conscious work is very slow. Conscious work is not only very slow, but it's also not change. There's no the forward progression from this stuff. It doesn't help you. It just gives the therapist a whole stack of information about you, and they can analyze it and you can analyze it. But the truth is, you can know why you are a certain way, and it will not help you solve that thing that you're dealing with. So I know plenty of people that will say, I'm like this, I'm an alcoholic because my father was so this way and that way. It doesn't stop them from drinking. You can say, I'm anxious because my mother screamed at me my whole childhood. It doesn't stop the anxiety. So knowing why something is the way it is does not help us in being able to move out of it, or change, or heal, or grow. So talking can be destructive. It can be counterproductive. Spending an hour a week talking about the past, talking about the problems, your focus is all on these things that aren't helpful, and you can walk out feeling worse than you did when you walked in. You might feel better for the offloading, you might feel better for the connection, but at the end of the day, you don't feel that you've made progress, and you'll see that over time. I know for those of you who know my story, my sister passed away 4 years ago. She suffered long-term with anxiety and with depression. She was seeing the same psychologist for 12 years, and there was a father and daughter psychologist. She saw the father first for like a decade, and then she saw the daughter for a decade, and the progress she made was not in the right direction at all. There wasn't healing and so forth going on, which that partially was the driver for me to be studying all this as well, with my own mental health, my own life, and then obviously also having other people in my family where I'm seeing that there's no progress being made. Really, really important. Find the right help, and don't wallow in that digging through the past and focusing on the problems kind of talk therapy. Another reason why therapy will not or may not work is because there is a thing called secondary gains and secondary benefits of staying how you are. Now, that can be something like, because of this, I get that, or because of this, I don't have to do that. So it might be extra things that you're getting or things that you can avoid. So for example, you know, I know of somebody that had 2 years of paid sick leave because they were suffering from agoraphobia and mental stress and you know, all that kind of thing. It's not in somebody's benefit. Sometimes the benefit, rather, of staying the same allows us to have something really advantageous. And then, you know, family care, attention, I'm only seen when I'm sick, or I'm only, you know, there's so many things that can be present that cause us to have a benefit. And these things are not always conscious. So sometimes I'll say to people, what's the worst thing that might happen, or the worst thing that would be about you being completely and utterly well? The person looks at me like I'm crazy and says, there's nothing, I want to be well. Well, when we look into it a little bit further and dig a little bit deeper, it actually turns out that, you know, oh, well, I'd have to go out into the world. I'd have to interact with other people. I wouldn't be able to, you know, blame my whatever. It can be something, it can be so many different things. It's not even take all day to go through all the possibilities there. So that's another thing, secondary gains from staying the same. Another thing is that we treat anxiety and depression and all these things as mental illness, as a psychological problem, as, you know, a thoughts thing or emotions thing or a chemical imbalance or whatever. But the truth is that anxiety, a lot of mental health stuff is actually, they're physical ailments. They are physical responses. If I'm anxious, my body has actually physically responded to a non-existent threat and given me that panic and that whatever, and that elevation of my system. If I'm depressed, I've been down-regulated. That's a physical ailment. So talking about these things will not resolve them. And it's very, very important to understand that we can work in therapy treating physical ailments by using different techniques and strategies. So I like analogies, I like metaphors, and I like to think about our mental and emotional health, even spiritual health, because it's a non-tangible thing, and kind of make a comparison to physical health. So you have your inputs, you have your food and your water and everything, and then you have your outputs, like, you know, you go for a walk with the dog, or you hang the washing up, so you're moving, you're doing the gardening, you're carrying kids around, so you have things like that. Now, there's the same as with a physical, you can have an injury or you can just be out of shape. So if you have an injury, you would go to the doctor. You probably wouldn't, you know, rest the injured part of you, get treatment, etc. And if you were just out of shape, you would maybe go to a gym or hire a personal trainer. And it's exactly the same with mental and emotional and spiritual stuff. If you're intangibly, like, you can't see this stuff, there's no bleeding arm or broken leg or anything, but on the inside, if talking to friends and doing the day-to-day stuff, if something big has happened, we've experienced an emotional injury or a mental breakdown or something, we need to look at it like that. We need to get the help we need, and it needs to be the right kind of help. I'm not going to go to a dentist if I've got a broken leg, and I'm not going to go to a personal trainer when I need a physiotherapist. So there's all different kinds of treatments for the body. And we need to start looking at ourselves holistically, that there are all sorts of different treatments for our mind and our emotions and so forth. So I want to talk a little bit about those types of therapies that there are. So what I always recommend to people, they say to me, I'm seeing a psychiatrist and I'm on this medication. Can I still come and see you? Yes, you can. I'm seeing, a shamanic spiritual healer. Can I still come and see you? Absolutely. There's therapies complement each other. And how I look at it is, if you're coming at something from many angles, then you're going to get a more fuller and faster and more robust kind of results. So I look at, so hypnosis is one modality. So we talk about modalities or processes, etc. Hypnosis is one. It works from the unconscious to the conscious, and therefore there's not a lot of talking about at what age and what happened and go into detail and so forth. It's all done in the operating system by allowing your conscious mind to essentially allow the unconscious mind to be accessed. There's things like, and I've tried many of these things. Number one, I'm a curious person and I'm very exploratory. But number two, I'm genuinely want to work on myself, and I want the best outcome I can possibly have. And that's ongoing. That doesn't stop just because, I'm no longer in a state of pain or suffering as I was many years ago, mentally and emotionally and spiritually. It's an ongoing process. So I have tried Kahuna massage, which is it's a very somatic physical, but it's also an unconscious, and it's an experiential kind of thing. There isn't talking, but from a physical level you can release stuff that's trapped, because emotions and so forth are trapped in the body, and a lot of physical disease actually is manifested or created from a lot of stuff, baggage that we're carrying around on an emotional level. So just like going to a personal trainer or a gym or a physiotherapist or a doctor isn't going to instantly magically do something, you cannot turn up to any kind of therapist and expect that in one session you're going to be transformed. So if I was going to Kahuna massage, I have only been to one session out of interest, but my advice and intention, even for myself, is that you would sort of book in, say, once a fortnight, once a month, and just continue to do that and explore it until you feel that you're no longer getting a benefit from it. Somatic therapy, which is like a very non-verbal, very going inside, being aware of the sensations in your body. Have you ever had that feeling where, I might just shut that door actually. I don't know if you've ever had that feeling like where somebody says something and it just tightens your stomach. Or I remember when I was going through my divorce, if I even saw my ex-husband's name on an email, like in the emails that I'd received, I'd feel like my whole body would be clenching up in terror or sickness or whatever to even open it and read it. It was like I had and that's, our body has so much to tell us about what isn't healed and what needs to be healed. And it's very, very beneficial to work on a somatic level, but it's, again, not instant. It's quite slow, and you would need to commit to doing that. There's a whole stack of therapies which originate from timeline therapy or matrix therapies or RTC therapy, or like so many different processes that use imagination trance and different things based on it's based on the fact that when you're able to rewrite the past in your imagination and gain wisdom and understanding, and you can reframe and heal certain things and then let go the things. It's kind of like you're going back, untangling the knot and then moving forward. And that can be really, really, really helpful in releasing a whole stack of past stuff and that's blocking us. And if you have stuff that's still got energy in it that you've experienced from the past, it's going to block you. It's going to block you from having things you want now. Another thing, another process which is quite effective, or very effective actually, especially for anxiety and so forth, and it's quite unusual but very widely known, and also what do you call it? It's evidence-based. It's researched. Is EFT, which is emotional freedom techniques, which is the tapping, the meridian tapping, and that can really help shift a lot of stuff too. There's kinesiology. There's a whole stack of stuff which is working with the body, because the body is connected to the unconscious. The unconscious runs our body, and therefore if you are working with the body will always tell the truth. So you could think to yourself, oh, I really want to have a baby, for example, and your body might be screaming, no, that's not safe for you to do that. And it will have its own reasons, which are based in the unconscious. And so it can be anything from, like I just used the example, working with fertility, working with relationships, working with trauma, working with anxiety or with depression. There are so many avenues and aspects around, you know, different types of therapies, but they're all processes, and those processes deliver results, and you can do them many, many times. So I hope all of that has opened up some thought for you, that there are more kinds of therapy out there than, you know, going to a counselor or a psychologist, that there is a lot of really effective There are a lot of effective processes that you can access through different practitioners, and that you can go to them together. So if I'm seeing an acupuncturist, which is another one that I didn't cover off yet, that oh, sorry, your phone's just ringing. If you're going to an acupuncturist and you're also going to a kinesiologist, you're also going to a kahuna massage, you're also going to a hypnotherapist, and you're also, you know, seeing a coach, look, you're covering it from you're going to feel so fully supported and work through so much stuff that you're going to get results. Yes, it's a financial commitment. That's why it's important that you channel your investment into where you're getting results for the moment. And what I find is that you might find somebody, you might just absolutely feel that this is the right person for you right now. You might run through a course of sessions with that person, and then it might be time for you to go and explore something else. That's how I operate with my clients. It's also how I operate when I'm working on myself. I find that the people you need will be attracted to you when you're ready to heal stuff. And that includes, you know, if you want to know what you need to work on, have a look what's being brought up for you at the moment, because I find life brings up in us what we need to work on internally. So why doesn't talk therapy always work? It doesn't always work because it's not always the right fit of the person, the process, or perhaps that we're not actually engaged fully in taking the responsibility for letting go of some of those benefits that might be there in our life from staying the same. Have a fantastic day, and I look forward to chatting with you again.